So you're ready to jump into reading instruction and you're thinking about teaching CVC, three sound words, consonant, vowel, consonant, to get your student or students raring to go. This is probably a pretty smart idea. That's what we do here at Reading Simplified. But I also know three things about teaching beginning reading instruction and CVC words that you probably weren't taught. And these three things may mean the difference between a student taking months to get into real reading or just days or weeks. But first, I have a little teaser to get you thinking about one of our points. Have you ever seen little kids say spaghetti for spaghetti or swamwich for sandwich? That was one of my favorites in my family's. That little quirk of preschool learning language actually relates to reading and what we're going to talk about with teaching CVC words. Hi, I'm Dr. Marnie Ginsberg from Reading Simplify, where we unspaghettify the tangled mess of mainstream reading instruction and streamline it so students can accelerate in their reading achievement. Ready for insight number one that they probably didn't teach you in college or in your handy-dandy reading curriculum? Well, first, you might be wondering, what does spaghetti have to do with reading instruction? Well, just like a toddler or a pre-K child stumbles upon those first two consonants in spaghetti, the S and the P, those are adjacent consonants, the S in spaghetti, that are hard to pronounce. And in a similar way, your young reader finds blending the sounds together in a word that has that adjacent consonant in spaghetti, or even a simpler word like stop, that is challenging to blend, segment, and manipulate, which are the beginning skills that they need. And so that's why we start at three sound CVC words, a perfect place to start.
Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start.
But you need to be on the lookout for when the child is ready to zip ahead. We don't want to camp out in three sound words. We want to move on and explore the rest of the code because there's so much to it. You see, when your student can read, say, a three sound word about 70% of the time, then she may be ready to move up to the next level of phonemic difficulty. Okay, so you're wondering, what is that hierarchy of phonemic difficulty? Think about it this way: three sound words, then four sound words, five sound words, and six sound words. So to get into more detail, three sound words like consonant, vowel, consonant like hot. Four sound words like consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant like help. And actually there's a little intermediate there. A four sound word where the consonant cluster is at the beginning is one level up, as in stop. Those adjacent consonants there at the beginning of the word stop can be more challenging than the LP in the help, just in a similar way to how spaghetti trips our young talkers. Then after four sound words, we're going to move to five sound words like stomp, You've got the adjacent consonants at the beginning and at the end in that type of word. And then there's a few rare six sound words like splint, that is the highest level of phonemic difficulty, and we don't get there quickly. So if you got it, you're starting out with three sound words, but you're going to be ready to move from CVC to CVCC, and then CCVC, and then CCVCC, and finally CCCVCC. Okay, next up, let's talk about insight number two that you didn't get taught probably in college. First of all, how are you going to get kids to put the sounds together to recognize a word, a three sound word like hot or sit? We just did a video on this, so check out this video to get more in depth. But here briefly, in that video, we discussed how if you're trying to get your student to read an unfamiliar word, and we already know we're probably starting out with CVC words, the ideas in that video briefly were there are three things that are mainstream approaches to teaching kids how to attack an unknown word, and we need to throw them out. They're not in alignment with the latest science. The worst one is anything under the three cueing umbrella, where we don't really direct the student's attention very carefully to print, but we use more about context and making predictions and maybe just looking at the first letter. That is not going to cut it. We know from decades of science that that's not effective.
Well, it wasn't bad science, it was just no science.
We really need our kids to look at the symbols that they're seeing, crack the code into the sounds that they hear, and then turn those into real words. Okay, so we're not doing the 3 cueing. But also there's 2 ways of teaching under the phonics umbrella that have been researched and historically have been maybe okay, but now we know more. So one of them is the sound word approach. So that's like, okay, you're reading the word sat, what word? This is probably most mainstream in most phonics programs, but it's actually been put to the test a number of times, including a recent study in 2020 in Scientific Studies of Reading. They pitted this approach, sound, word, the segmented approach, against a connected approach where you didn't stop and segment in isolation, but you built from the beginning. So you would read the word sat as sat. It's a subtle difference, but it made a big difference in outcomes for those kids in that study and some ones earlier. So check out that video if you want to see more references or more elaboration on that. And then a third most common way that phonics programs try to teach kids how to read words is an analytic approach, teaching the child to blend the onset, the beginning sound or some collection of sounds, and the rhyme, the ending sound. So like in the word wet, w-et. So you put the et together, wet, or at, cat. This, like the previous one, actually works for some kids, but it doesn't work for everyone. And that study that showed that blending the sounds together is what we have found works for everyone here at Reading Simplified. So we know now that, yeah, we're going to teach 3 sound words, and we know that we're going to teach our students to blend as they read. That's what we call it. Put the sounds together cumulatively or continuously. Fat. Don't let them segment each one individually to get to the end, because if you do, they all go at turtle.
Don't do it again.
Okay, we've got that blending approach established. We're gonna do blend as you read, but still some kids are gonna struggle with blending. It's related to poor phonemic awareness, the processing of individual sounds and words, which we talked about with insight number 1. And if your child is struggling with that, they may be 3, 4, 5, 6, and even sometimes older students who are just now trying to figure out how to truly have a sound-based decoding approach. If this is true of any of your students like that, then select words to teach them how to blend that begin with continuant consonants. What's that? A continuant consonant would be like the letter S, where you can continue the sound until you run out of air. Or so it turns out it's easier for a kid who's really struggling with blending to blend the word sat as compared to the word cat. Still, both are 3 sound words, they both end the same, but that first sound helps them just kind of get into the vowel. And frankly, getting to the vowel is the big accomplishment. Put those 2 together. Sat, hold that vowel, sat. So choose SMRL when you're getting started with blending, and that will make it easier for those kids who might be tripped up otherwise. So we're gonna actually avoid stop consonants like k or t or p, because cat and tap and pop are actually harder to blend than sad, rat, lip. Are these tips sounding good? Like things you wish you'd learned in school? Then be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next release. Like us and send this video on to a colleague. These are insights that will really accelerate your students' reading. And that leads us to our last insight, possibly the most powerful. Many programs will expect you to start instruction by learning the whole alphabet. And then that you start to read 3 sound words. But actually, a little secret that we talk about a lot here at Reading Simplified is that you can jump straight into building, reading, spelling, and manipulating 3 sound words. As soon as a child knows 1 or 2 sounds, you can teach them the 3rd in the context of a real word. We do this all the time with our activity Build It. And after kids know just as little as 5 to 7 sounds, we kick it up a notch to switch it. How can this be? A lot of phonics programs have a traditional base that predated our insight about phonemic awareness and how important it is to unlock the code. And we need to show kids how to put sounds and symbols together in the context of real words. We integrate all those sub-skills simultaneously. This unlocks the alphabetic principle. That's the concept that our written language is a code for sounds. And it's really hard to discover it if you're just doing letter sounds or if you're just playing around with sounds orally. In fact, researchers have shown that when we do phonemic awareness with letter sounds in the context of words, that's when the ahas about the alphabetic principle happen. And that's when kids start to make the connections about how our written language works, and they start generating the ability to read more novel words. At Reading Simplified, our kindergarten teachers start kids building and reading and writing CVCs in the first week. Many reading programs, on the other hand, would have you wait 6 weeks, 9 weeks, even 13 weeks before you get to this 3-sound CVC level. It's not necessary. As soon as they have a little bit of letter sound knowledge, then you want to focus more on the alphabetic principle, and do that by building and writing and reading and manipulating words, and do that by working within the context of real words, linking phonemes and graphemes, sounds and symbols together. And you will see your beginning or struggling readers skyrocket in their achievement. If you want to see a preschooler crack the code in just 5 days, even when they started with no letter sound knowledge, or maybe a kindergartner who was struggling and they learned 13 letter sounds in 1 week with these activities that jump right into building and manipulating 3-sound words, then we've got some links below for you. And I have a little goodie I want to send you off with. We have Read It cards that align with the principles I talked about in this video. So they begin with CVC and they get progressively more challenging, moving up to CVCC and etc. These are available for members of our Reading Simplified Academy, but if you would like to get a sample of them to print out, maybe in different colored cardstock, then check the link below for those Read It word cards. Are you ready to take this show on the road? Jump right into CVC. We discussed the insight about thinking about words in terms of their phonemic difficulty. We want to move kids up from 3-sound words to 4-sound words to 5-sound words and then 6-sound words to really continue their phonemic difficulty and improve their skill. We also want to be sure to teach them the blend as you read strategy, slip, not all the other strategies that are more popular right now. We want to begin their blending with continuant consonants like s and sat and l and lip, and not stop consonants like pop or cat, because that trips up some kids in their blending. And probably most importantly, don't spend all your time teaching the alphabet before you just dive right into CVC words. We can show you the way. Here's to making great readers.